A warm breeze drifts off the Black Sea as 28-year-old Lars Mittank steps onto the sunlit terrace of a lively resort. He is on holiday with a group of high school friends, eager to escape the routine of their German hometown and soak in summer freedom. The destination, a busy seaside resort near Varna, Bulgaria called Golden Sands. The mood is carefree, days by the pool, evenings at bars, football banter among friends, laughter echoing across the beach. For the first few days, Lars blends effortlessly into the group. He swims, sunbathes, jokes with his friends, and even though one of them notices he eats only light meals, a soup or a small salad, nothing seems out of the ordinary. The holiday appears to unfold exactly as imagined. He is described by those who know him as responsible, quiet, something of an engineer type who worked at a power plant in northern Germany, living in Itzehoe, and now finally enjoying a break. The locals, the beach bars, the summer air, they all seem routine. Then, toward the end of the trip, just before the group's scheduled return flight to Germany, something shifts. On the evening of July 6th, a discussion breaks out in a bar among German tourists about football, of all things. Lars supports Werder Bremen, the others back FC Bayern Munich. The tone veers from playful to tense. Later, Lars leaves the bar ahead of his friends. They walk back to the hotel together, but he slips away, disappears for the rest of the night. The next morning he returns, telling the group he was attacked on his way back, that his jaw hurts, his ear throbs. He says his eardrum is somehow damaged. He claims he can't fly home. A local doctor examines him, confirms a ruptured eardrum, warns of the dangers of flying due to cabin pressure. The prescription, an antibiotic, and the advice, stay put until you're safe to travel. His friends offer to remain behind with him. They had all planned to fly home together, but Lars insists they go ahead without him. He checks out of the resort and into a smaller hotel near the airport. He says he will book a later flight, that everything will be okay. They leave. He stays. The solo remainder of the trip begins. Alone, slightly injured, in a foreign country. The hotel is near Varna Airport, quieter than the bustling resort, and night falls without the usual group energy to anchor him. That night, he places a phone call to his mother in Germany. Soft-spoken, he says, "People are trying to rob me. They're trying to kill me." He asks her to cancel his bank cards. He whispers fear. The camera in the hotel catches him pacing corridors, peeking out windows, ducking into an elevator. The friends say they don't remember any prior pattern of behavior like this. The injury, the isolation, maybe the medication. It's unclear which factor tipped the scale. Based on what we know, we can assume that a combination of physical pain, psychological stress from being alone, and perhaps the unfamiliar environment caused his behavior to spiral. He lies awake, hears footsteps in corridors where there should be none, imagines shapes at the edge of the window's reflection. Some of this could imply a panic attack. Some could imply a more severe acute psychotic break triggered by injury or medication, but nothing is confirmed. Then the morning of July 8th arrives. He sends his mother a brief text. "I'm at the airport." He carries a suitcase. He drives to Varna Airport by taxi, wearing a yellow t-shirt and jean shorts. At arrivals, he meets with the airport doctor who assesses his ear injury and clears him to fly home. The doctor later describes him as nervous and erratic. While in the consultation room, a construction worker enters to deliver something. Perhaps routine, perhaps incidental. Lars suddenly stands, begins mumbling. Tense, the doctor reports. He says, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." Then he drops his passport, his wallet, his phone, and the suitcase behind him, all on the floor. He runs. He bursts through the airport exit, across the tarmac, over a fence, and disappears into a forest adjacent to the airport. The CCTV footage is grainy but unmistakable. A man fled and vanished. That is the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. The official timeline up to this point is confirmed. The holiday, the fight, the injury, the doctor's advice, the friends leaving, the solo hotel stay, the phone call to mom, the airport consultation, and the sprint into the woods. What happens after that is speculation. It is verified that he left the terminal wearing the same clothes, leaving behind luggage and belongings, and that he entered the forest area. It is not verified what he did that forest, whether he escaped into the wild on purpose, whether he ran from someone or something, whether he lost his mind, or whether someone intervened. Several theories exist. He may have had a reaction to the antibiotic cefprozil, which in rare cases can trigger paranoia or hallucinations, or the brain injury from the ear trauma could have had neurological consequences. He might have been pursued by assailants hired by the bar fight opponents in the resort. He might have panicked, fled, got lost. Based on what we know, we can assume his fear was real, even if its source remains unknown. The forest beyond Varna Airport is thick, dark, dotted with scrub, trees, tracks veering off the main highway. Some believe that once he climbed the fence, he walked deeper into the forest to escape. But no body, no landmark, no trace has emerged. Years later, internet sleuths dubbed his disappearance the most famous missing person on YouTube because the Runway to Woods footage exploded online and remains one of the most replayed missing person videos in the true crime world. His mother continues to campaign for answers, posting updates, inviting sightings, clinging to a glimmer of hope. His friends recall the holiday fondly, still haunted by how a fight and a ruptured eardrum turned a vacation into a nightmare. In this first chapter of his disappearance, the contrast is acute. From sunlit poolside freedom to midnight fear, from shared laughter to solitary panic, from airport check-in to fence climb into the unknown. The final flight never happened, not just because his body never departed, but because his mind, his reality, derailed. If you want to follow this journey through the final hours of Lars Mittank and the theories that swirl around it, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. On the morning of July 7th, the sun rose over the Black Sea resort region with routine calm. But for Lars Mittank, it marked the beginning of something else entirely. His friends were preparing to leave the holiday behind and fly back to Germany. They had enjoyed a week by the pool, by the sea, in the warmth and company of old classmates. But Lars, nursing an injured ear and advised against flying, remained behind. The tension had been growing. After the bar argument about football, he claimed he was hit in the head and the ear. The doctor later diagnosed a ruptured eardrum and said that flying might cause further damage or pain. So the friends packed their bags, kissed goodbyes, boarded their flight, and left. Lars checked into a quieter, less polished hotel near the airport instead of the resort he had used. Once alone, the bright holiday veneer began to peel away. He called his mother in Germany late that evening. His voice was low, anxious. "They're trying to steal from me. They want to kill me." He asked her to cancel his bank cards. He said he needed protection. There were short bursts of crying, of whispered fear. For the mother, who later described the moment, the prescription of an antibiotic and the doctor's wording, "We won't let you fly yet," were plain facts. The emotional context, the whisper that he felt hunted, emerges from those phone calls and hotel footage. At the hotel, the surveillance cameras show him in a state of agitation, pacing the lobby, looking out windows, ducking into the elevator, clutching his phone, darting his eyes down hallways. He checked in and out of his room multiple times, eventually returning to the lobby early in the morning, restless. The change in his demeanor sharp and unnerving. These recorded behaviors are verified. What they mean is less clear. Overnight, he had transitioned from holiday guest to someone on edge. The same young man who had arrived with laughter and light-hearted fun now appeared uncertain, glancing over his shoulder, muttering to himself. What triggered that jump? The broken eardrum might have been the physical catalyst. The antibiotic, which rare medical literature suggests can in some instances cause hallucinations or paranoia, is often cited, but verified records show the prescribing doctor later said Lars did not fill the antibiotic prescription, making this a matter of speculation rather than fact. We must say, this could imply that whatever triggered his mindset was not the medication, but something else. In the early hours of July 8th, Lars took a taxi to the airport taxi rank at Varna. He had a large suitcase with him and a backpack. He arrived alone, before dawn. According to the taxi driver's account, his eyes were unusually dilated. He seemed panicky, almost desperate to be dropped at the airport. At 5 o'clock, he was driven to the terminal. Confirmed. At about 6 o'clock, he arrived at the departures hall, wearing a yellow t-shirt and jean shorts, carrying his bag. He had told his mother he would meet a doctor at the airport, get cleared to fly, then return home. The doctor assessed his ear injury, confirmed his physical condition was stable enough for flight, and cleared him for departure. That much is verified. What happens next is captured on the airport CCTV. Initially, Lars walks into the medical office calmly. He drags his suitcase slowly, removes his small backpack, leaves his phone and wallet in his jacket pocket. A construction worker enters the room. The doctor is finishing the consultation. Lars shifts in his seat, looks at the door, puts his hand to his head. He suddenly stands, exclaims, "I don't want to die here." Then he leaves his suitcase, wallet, phone, everything behind, and sprints out of the office. He bolts through the terminal, past check-in counters, across the parking lot. He climbs or goes over the perimeter fence of the airport into a forested area adjacent to the runway. That footage is authentic and remains his last confirmed sighting. Now the narrative forks. One path is what we know. We know that on July 8th, early morning, he was at Varna Airport, was cleared to fly, then ran away in panic, left all his belongings, scaled a fence, entered woods, and vanished. The suitcase remained. His phone and wallet remain unrecovered. The travel documents show he did not board the flight. These facts are verified. The other path, what we can reasonably assume. Based on what we know, we can assume he believed he was being pursued or was in danger. His call to his mother about people wanting to kill him suggests this fear was real to him. One interpretation is that the injury and physical distress triggered an acute psychological episode, panic attack, acute stress reaction, psychosis. Perhaps the infection from the ear injury or the lack of sleep and the stress of being alone intensified it. Alternatively, some posit that he may indeed have been followed or threatened. He claimed as much. This could imply that he fled for his life. But there is no verified evidence of any pursuers or an attack at the airport or forest. It's speculation. What is clear is that by the time he sprinted into the woods, his mindset had changed. He was no longer the relaxed holidaymaker. The world he walked into was no longer sunlight and beaches. It was fear, twilight, uncertainty. He left the resort, his friends, his comfort zone. He took a taxi to the airport, but instead of boarding a flight home, he fled into a Bulgarian forest. The forest area beyond the fence is dense, shadowy in the morning light, a tangle of trees, scrubland, uneven terrain. If he fled into that terrain, survival would be hard. No known preparation, no resources. Some investigators searched that area, used dogs, checked for footprints, but found no traces. Another strand of theory suggests that once he entered the woods, he may have wandered, become lost, succumbed to the elements, or suffered an accident. This could imply he died alone in the wild, his body never found. That remains speculative. Others argue maybe he managed to leave the country under a new identity, or he was abducted by criminal elements. Without verified evidence, these remain theories. His mother continued to campaign for information. Flyers were distributed across Germany. Photos of him in a yellow shirt, his last known clothing, were circulated. Websites listed him as missing person. This search procedure is factual. The emotional context is vivid. A mother waiting, hope fading, the image of her son sprinting into nothing. By the end of this second phase of the story, the holiday is over. The fight is behind. The doctor's consultation is done, but the disappearance has begun. The shift from a carefree week to the unknown wilderness happened in a matter of hours. The pillars of the story: injury, isolation, fear, airport panic, sprint into the unknown. As you reflect on this portion of the story, remember that while we have firm data on the events, the why remains ambiguous. Was it an acute breakdown? A drug side effect? A real threat? One thing is certain: when he crossed that fence, Lars Mittank left the life others returned to. If you want to dive deeper into the investigation, explore the theories and media coverage that followed, make sure to subscribe and join the channel so you don't miss the next section. The quiet morning air outside the hotel near Varna Airport seemed unchanged, yet inside the corridors something had already shifted irreversibly. After his friends departed for Germany, leaving him alone in Bulgaria, the environment around Lars Joachim Mittank diminished in comfort and increased in tension. The resort laughter, the shared jokes, and the group dynamic were gone. Instead, he found himself at the edge of a holiday turning strange. He had checked out of the poolside resort where he'd stayed with friends and checked into a smaller hotel near the airport, a quieter place, an unfamiliar setting. At that point, the injury to his ear, a ruptured eardrum diagnosed by a local doctor, had already been confirmed, and the advice to avoid flying due to pressure changes was issued. His friends had insisted on staying, but Lars had persuaded them to go. That decision meant the next hours would belong solely to him. The solitude and the physical ailment combined in a foreign place form a risky mix. In the evening, still at his new hotel, Lars made a phone call to his mother in Germany. His tone was not playful but low, deliberate. He said he felt watched. He claimed people were trying to kill or rob him. He asked her to cancel his bank cards. He said he didn't feel safe. The specifics of the threat, who they were, how many, or whether he was followed, remain unverified and therefore speculative. What is verified is that the calls happened, The fear in his voice was real, and his behavior began to diverge markedly from his friend's memories of the carefree traveler. Hotel CCTV footage confirms that he paced the lobby, stepped out of his room multiple times, looked through windows, hid inside the elevator for moments. He arrived at the airport hotel with a suitcase and backpack, but at times he seemed reluctant to stay still. Verified records show this surveillance behavior. The meaning behind it is speculative. It could imply acute anxiety, hypervigilance, perhaps a response to pain, or the onset of a psychological episode. Late at night, he left the hotel for a period of time, about an hour or so, returning in the early hours. What he did during that time remains unanswered. Some sources suggest he went outside to hide, others that he simply wandered. None of these extra activities are confirmed. We must label them as informed speculation. Based on what we know, it could imply he was attempting to evade perceived pursuers or was simply unable to remain in his room because of anxiety. Morning arrived on July 8th, and he took a taxi to the airport. The driver later stated that Lars appeared unusually tense, his eyes dilated, his insistence on leaving immediately, his silence. These details are part of the taxi driver's account and lend to the broader mood of alarm. At the airport, Lars met with the on-site doctor who assessed his ruptured eardrum and cleared him for flight. The doctor, subsequently interviewed, described Lars as nervous and erratic. That phrase is verified. It underscores that a medical professional found his state of mind outside the norm. After being cleared, something changed very rapidly. The doctor says that a construction worker entered the medical office at the airport, at which point Lars suddenly rose, left his luggage and documents on the floor, and shouted, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." He then rushed out of the terminal, across the tarmac, scaled a perimeter fence, and vanished into the adjacent forest. The CCTV captures this sequence. These are confirmed events. What isn't confirmed is why the trigger occurred at that moment. Some theories suggest that the antibiotic he was prescribed, cefprozil, may, in rare cases, cause hallucinations or paranoia. However, the doctor later stated that Lars had not filled the prescription, which means that route of explanation is speculative. It could suggest that the breakdown was triggered by the physical injury, by an underlying mental health issue, by fear of flying, or by actual threat. None of these causal links are verified, so when I mention them, they are speculative. At the moment when Lars broke from the doctor's office, his decision to flee into the unknown branch of forest beyond the airport fence marked a transition. Up until then, there had been a progression: vacation, altercation, injury, new hotel, fear, call to mother, arrival at airport. Now the narrative becomes the disappearance. The suitcase, his passport, his phone, all abandoned. That abandonment itself is verified. It signals urgency, distress, or panic, which we can reasonably interpret as he believed he needed to escape immediately. But whether he should have, or whether he was actually under threat, remains unknown. The forest and field area beyond the airport is described by search teams as scrubland, uneven terrain, and at that time of year still hot, exposed, with limited shelter. If Lars entered that area alone, the odds of survival without equipment, knowledge, or support were slim. This possibility is inferred by investigators. The exact route he took precisely into the woods remains uncertain. So again, that scenario is informed speculation, not documented fact. In the hours and days after his disappearance, his case gained massive attention. The CCTV video of his dash into the woods was shared widely online and given the nickname, "the most famous missing person on YouTube." That label is accurate in terms of how the case spread internationally and became part of internet culture. Investigators searched the area, his family distributed flyers, but no trace of Lars has been found. This absence of evidence drives many of the questions. Did he deliberately vanish? Did he collapse in the woods? Was he abducted? All speculated answers, none confirmed. Back in Germany, his mother began a relentless campaign for answers. She posted photos of him, the clothing he wore the last day, yellow t-shirt, jean shorts, suitcase, tried to raise awareness. These details are part of the verified record of the missing person investigation. The emotional cost is immense. The ordinary holiday, the young man with a job in a power plant, the mother waiting at home who expected a son to return with stories of sun and sea, not fear and disappearance. Looking at the bigger picture, this case intersects with several broader contexts. First, the vulnerability of solo travelers in unfamiliar countries. A simple injury turned into isolation. Second, The impact of sudden injury and possible medical complications on mental state, the ruptured eardrum, and doctors' advice not to fly are turning points. Third, the way digital culture amplifies disappearance. The CCTV footage became viral, placing Lars' story in a public domain, altering how missing person cases are perceived. As we end this section of his story, I ask you to reflect on the threshold moment. A young man expecting a plane home, walking into a medical office, cleared to fly, and in a few seconds turning into someone sprinting into woods, abandoning all traces of his prior life. That moment remains etched in the film-like clip, yet the before and after are uneven. The before had familiarity, the after is pure mystery. The morning after Lars ran from the airport clinic, the Bulgarian authorities received a missing person report that would grow into one of Europe's most perplexing modern mysteries. A young German man had vanished without a trace on Bulgarian soil, leaving behind his phone, passport, and suitcase, the lifelines of any traveler abroad. In the beginning, few realized how deeply unsettling the case would become. The Varna police began their work by reviewing security footage from the airport. They confirmed that at 7 a.m., Lars Mittank, dressed in a yellow t-shirt and denim shorts, burst out of the medical office and sprinted through the terminal. Moments later, he exited the main doors, ran across the parking lot, and scaled the airport fence before disappearing into the fields beyond. Those images became iconic in the world of true mystery communities, the final confirmed moments of Lars's life as anyone knew it. Search teams were immediately dispatched to the surrounding area. The fields behind the airport stretched wide, with patches of tall grass and forested sections that made visibility difficult. Cadaver dogs, drones, and local volunteers scoured every trail they could, but no sign of Lars was found. Not a single footprint, item of clothing, or body. This remains one of the most confirmed and baffling facts of the investigation. The man simply vanished within minutes of being captured on camera. Bulgarian authorities coordinated with Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office, the BKA, officially listing Lars as a missing person. German officials communicated with local police and the German embassy in Sofia, ensuring that his information was distributed to all nearby hospitals, clinics, and border checkpoints. Despite the international coordination, no record of Lars crossing any border, checking into any hospital, or being detained by police ever surfaced. Investigators then retraced his last 24 hours. After his friends flew home, Lars had checked into a small budget hotel called the Color Varna Hotel. Staff remembered him vividly, polite, quiet, but increasingly anxious. The receptionist reported that he had asked strange questions, like whether there were cameras in the building, and he requested to stay in a different room because he didn't feel safe. Security footage later confirmed that he was pacing the hallway late into the night, occasionally pressing his ear to the door or peering out the window as if expecting someone to appear. That same night, Lars called his mother several times. He told her he felt followed and that she should cancel his credit card and block his SIM card. She tried to calm him down and offered to book him a flight home. The next morning, Lars took a taxi to Varna Airport, where he visited the medical office to get a final check before boarding. The doctor, Kosta Kostov, examined his ear and concluded that the injury from his earlier bar fight, a ruptured eardrum, had healed enough for safe travel. But then, in the middle of their conversation, a construction worker entered the room. At that instant, Lars's behavior changed completely. According to the doctor's statement, he stood up suddenly, eyes wide, muttered something like, "I don't want to die here," and bolted from the office. This reaction has never been fully explained. The worker, interviewed later, said he didn't even know Lars personally and had just come in to do his job. Based on available reports, the simplest explanation may be that Lars was already in a paranoid state and the worker's unexpected entrance triggered panic. But since there's no definitive proof of what he believed he saw or heard, this remains one of the many mysteries surrounding his final minutes. The doctor later told police that Lars had refused to take the prescribed antibiotic for his ear infection, a medication called cefprozil. He warned that untreated infections could cause dizziness, vertigo, or even mild confusion, but not the kind of extreme behavior that Lars displayed. The missing prescription bottle became another clue, or perhaps a red herring, in the growing web of unanswered questions. Once outside, Lars dropped his phone and wallet, ran barefoot across the parking lot, and jumped a barbed wire fence. Eyewitnesses said he disappeared into the tall grass near the highway that led toward the village of Dobrik. Police dogs tracked his scent for several hundred meters, but it vanished abruptly, as if he had entered a vehicle or crossed an area contaminated by other scents. The search continued for days, but nothing surfaced. No body, no clothing, no confirmed trace. His mother arrived in Bulgaria shortly after and viewed the airport footage herself. She described the experience as unbearable, watching her son flee in visible terror with no clear reason why. She pleaded with both German and Bulgarian authorities to continue searching, and she even hired private investigators to explore every lead, including reports of unidentified men seen near the hotel days before. But none of those leads produced results. Some suggested that Lars suffered a psychotic episode triggered by stress, dehydration, lack of sleep, or the physical effects of his injury. This hypothesis aligns with the doctor's description of him as nervous and disoriented. However, others pointed to his repeated claims that he was being followed, and the fact that he refused to board an earlier flight because he feared someone on the plane would harm him. While there's no evidence of such a threat, his consistent fear could imply he truly believed he was in danger. Authorities checked every hospital, psychiatric facility, and homeless shelter in Bulgaria and neighboring Romania. They distributed his photo across Europe through Interpol databases. Over the years, several unverified sightings surfaced. A German-speaking man in Poland, another in Denmark, a homeless traveler in Amsterdam. Each report stirred brief hope, but DNA testing and follow-up investigations proved inconclusive or incorrect. Officially, Bulgarian police never classified the case as homicide. To this day, it is logged as a missing person investigation. This doesn't rule out foul play, but it reflects the absence of evidence for any crime. The procedural reality is that without a body or witness testimony, no further legal action can be taken. The family has continued to press for updates, but the case file remains stagnant. What makes Lars's disappearance particularly haunting is how complete it was. Airports are some of the most monitored spaces in the modern world, yet he managed to escape into an open field and vanish within minutes. It highlights a chilling reality that under the right conditions, a person can truly disappear, even in broad daylight. Based on what we know, it's possible he suffered a medical or psychological collapse, wandered into the countryside, and succumbed to the elements. Yet the total lack of remains challenges that assumption. Years later, when asked about the case, investigators have admitted that they're no closer to understanding what happened than they were in 2014. Some believe Lars is alive and living under a new identity. Others think he met with an accident or foul play shortly after running away. But all agree on one fact: no verified trace has ever been found. The image of Lars Mittank running across the tarmac remains burned into the minds of those who've studied the case, a snapshot of raw human panic, frozen in time. His story continues to circulate across forums, documentaries, and true mystery discussions, serving as a grim reminder of how quickly the ordinary can turn into the inexplicable. Make sure to like and subscribe. After the initial searches around the airport failed, attention shifted to the many theories attempting to explain Lars Mittank's disappearance. Because he left no evidence beyond the airport footage and abandoned belongings, speculation naturally expanded, but it's important to distinguish between confirmed facts and informed interpretations. One line of reasoning centers on mental health. Witnesses, including hotel staff, the airport doctor, and his taxi driver, all described Lars as increasingly anxious, tense, and fearful in the hours before he vanished. Verified records show him pacing, hiding in elevators, peering out windows, and making phone calls to his mother in which he repeatedly expressed that people were trying to harm him. These behaviors could suggest acute paranoia, a panic episode, or a temporary psychotic break. While no medical history confirms an existing psychiatric condition, it is reasonable to infer, based on observable behaviors, that he may have experienced a sudden mental health crisis triggered by stress, his injury, or unfamiliar surroundings. The ruptured eardrum itself may have contributed. Doctors confirmed the diagnosis and advised against flying, citing potential pain and disorientation from pressure changes. While untreated inner ear injuries can occasionally lead to dizziness, imbalance, or disorientation, there is no evidence that this alone would have caused the extreme behavior observed. However, combined with his existing anxiety, it could have exacerbated his sense of danger. Based on what we know, it is plausible to assume that his physical discomfort heightened his psychological stress. Another theory is voluntary disappearance. Some have proposed that Lars chose to vanish deliberately, perhaps to escape personal pressures or start a new life. Supporters of this idea point to his abandoned phone and wallet, which could indicate premeditation. However, this contradicts his behavior in the days prior, including repeated calls to his mother and his expressed fear of being followed. Deliberate disappearance remains speculative and, at best, an inferred possibility rather than a verified conclusion. Foul play has also been considered. Lars had been involved in a bar altercation with other German tourists days earlier. He told his mother and hotel staff that men were attempting to harm him. While authorities investigated these claims, no evidence of hired assailants or criminal pursuit was ever verified. There are no confirmed reports connecting his disappearance to anyone else's activity. Therefore, while foul play cannot be ruled out entirely, the investigation has found no concrete evidence to support this theory. Environmental factors are another aspect to consider. The area beyond the airport fence consists of uneven terrain, fields, and patches of forest. If Lars entered this area barefoot or lightly dressed, as the footage indicates, exposure to heat, uneven footing, and potential wildlife hazards would pose significant risk. Based on what search teams have reported, the terrain is challenging for anyone unfamiliar with it, making survival without shelter, water, or direction difficult. This supports the possibility that he may have succumbed to environmental factors shortly after leaving the airport. Digital footprints also offer some insight. Lars did not use his phone or bank cards after fleeing the airport. This absence of activity suggests he either intended to remain off the grid or was prevented from continuing normal communication. This fact is confirmed by telecommunications records and bank statements. Some analysts infer that his sudden disappearance into the forest indicates panic-driven flight rather than a pre-planned escape, since most people attempting voluntary disappearance would arrange continued access to essential resources. Public fascination with Lars's case grew rapidly. The airport's CCTV footage was uploaded online and became widely circulated, leading to extensive discussion in forums and social media. His story is often described as the most famous missing person on YouTube, a phrase reflecting how viral the video became. Verified documentation confirms that interest surged internationally, with viewers scrutinizing every second of the footage to hypothesize about his motives, state of mind, or possible fate. Family involvement was immediate and persistent. His mother coordinated with police in both Germany and Bulgaria, distributed flyers, and employed private investigators to follow any leads, including alleged sightings in other European countries. Private investigator records confirm efforts in Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands, none of which produced verified results. The family's actions underscore the urgency and personal toll of the case, illustrating how missing person investigations can become prolonged campaigns across borders. Authorities also examined a range of physiological and pharmacological possibilities. Lars had been prescribed an antibiotic, cefprozil, but there is confirmation he did not fill the prescription. Therefore, any speculation linking medication side effects to his erratic behavior remains hypothetical. Nevertheless, medical professionals often note that acute stress combined with physical injury can trigger panic attacks or disorientation, which may help explain his sudden flight from the airport. Based on observations, it is reasonable to suggest that both physical injury and mental strain contributed to the incident. Finally, the absence of any trace after the airport presents a profound challenge. Search dogs lost the scent a few hundred meters beyond the fence, and no subsequent sightings could be verified. It remains a mystery how a single individual could vanish completely in daylight, with multiple witnesses nearby, in an area that was actively searched. This gap between confirmed events and unknown outcome fuels continued speculation and public interest. What is clear and confirmed through multiple sources is that Lars's actions were abrupt, uncharacteristic, and desperate. He abandoned essential belongings, ran across an exposed area, and disappeared into terrain that would be difficult to navigate. Verified witness statements, medical notes, and CCTV footage establish a timeline and sequence of events leading up to his disappearance. What remains unknown is what occurred after he crossed the fence, whether he sought help, encountered others, or perished. The combination of verified evidence and unresolved questions has made Lars Mittank's case one of the most discussed disappearances in recent history. It highlights the fragility of human security, especially in foreign environments where sudden stressors, injuries, or psychological strain can escalate rapidly. From a broader perspective, it also demonstrates how quickly social and digital media amplify missing person cases, turning individual tragedy into a widely scrutinized public narrative. Make sure to like and subscribe. Over the years, numerous theories have arisen attempting to explain what might have happened to Lars Mittank. While some are purely speculative, others are grounded in the circumstances and evidence documented during the investigation. To understand the range of possibilities, it is helpful to examine them alongside the verified timeline of events and known behavior. One prominent theory revolves around a psychological breakdown. Witnesses consistently describe Lars as acting unusually anxious and paranoid in the hours leading up to his disappearance. Hotel staff recall him pacing the corridors late at night, checking doors and windows, and hiding in the elevator. His taxi driver remembered him speaking rapidly on the phone, seemingly in distress. CCTV footage from the airport shows him leaving the medical office abruptly, eyes wide, muttering statements suggesting imminent danger. These are confirmed behaviors, forming the basis for interpreting his state of mind. It could imply that he experienced an acute panic episode, potentially exacerbated by stress from traveling alone in a foreign country, the injury to his ear, and the perception of being followed. Another theory examines the role of his physical injury. The doctor who treated Lars confirmed a ruptured eardrum, advising against air travel due to the risk of severe pain or complications from cabin pressure changes. Lars was prescribed an antibiotic, but records indicate he never filled the prescription. Based on what we know, we can assume the combination of discomfort, vertigo, and heightened stress may have amplified his fear and disorientation. This does not definitively explain his disappearance, but it offers a plausible factor contributing to his abrupt flight from the airport. Some suggest foul play, though evidence for this remains unverified. Lars had previously been involved in a bar altercation with other German tourists. He claimed to his mother and hotel staff that men were attempting to harm him. Bulgarian authorities investigated these claims, but found no corroborating evidence of hired attackers or criminal pursuit. While it is impossible to entirely rule out foul play, the lack of verified links makes this theory speculative. It is possible that Lars's fear was genuine in his perception, but not based on any real external threat. Voluntary disappearance has also been proposed. Proponents of this theory note that Lars left behind essential belongings, including his passport, wallet, and phone, which some might see as evidence of planning to vanish intentionally. However, his repeated communication with his mother and expressed fear of harm suggest that panic, rather than calculated decision, was the driving factor. Based on what is known, voluntary disappearance remains a possible but unlikely explanation when considered alongside his behavior patterns. The role of the environment cannot be ignored. The terrain beyond the airport fence is uneven, with fields, patches of forest, and tall grass. If Lars fled barefoot or lightly dressed, as seen in the footage, the challenges of navigating that terrain would be significant. It could imply that he struggled to find shelter or water, heightening the risk of injury or exposure. Search teams confirmed that the area was actively combed with cadaver dogs, drones, and ground personnel, yet nothing was found. This gap between what was searched and the lack of evidence suggests either that Lars moved farther than expected, found concealment, or met an unknown hazard. Digital inactivity adds another layer of intrigue. After abandoning his belongings, Lars did not use his phone or bank accounts. Verified records confirm that no transactions or communications occurred in the days following his disappearance. Some interpret this as a sign that he was no longer capable of using technology, whether due to voluntary isolation, injury, or external interference. Others see it as supporting the theory of an unintended disappearance into the wilderness. Based on confirmed evidence, the absence of activity aligns with the fact that he disappeared entirely from public view. Public fascination has intensified because of the dramatic nature of the footage and the mystery surrounding it. The images of Lars sprinting across the tarmac, disappearing over a fence, and vanishing in plain sight have been widely shared and discussed online. His story is frequently cited in documentaries, podcasts, and forums dedicated to unexplained disappearances. Verified documentation confirms that the footage exists and is widely circulated. This public interest has maintained attention on the case, encouraging ongoing discussion and repeated attempts to analyze and theorize about the events. Family involvement has remained steadfast. Lars's mother coordinated with German and Bulgarian authorities, engaged private investigators, and distributed flyers in multiple countries. She followed up on alleged sightings in other European nations, including Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands, none of which produced verified evidence. These actions are documented and highlight the personal and logistical challenges families face when a loved one disappears abroad. Medical and physiological explanations continue to be considered by experts. While Lars did not take his prescribed antibiotic, the stress of the injury combined with exhaustion, dehydration, and disorientation could have contributed to his flight response. While these factors alone cannot explain his disappearance, they support interpretations that he was acting under extreme duress. Based on this, it is reasonable to infer that psychological and physical stress played a critical role in his behavior. What remains most striking is the total lack of evidence after Lars crossed the airport fence. Search dogs lost his scent within a few hundred meters, and no verified sightings or traces have been documented since. This absence of evidence leaves the investigation relying on indirect analysis, such as behavioral patterns, environmental challenges, and the psychological state inferred from his actions before fleeing. The confirmed details of his flight provide a clear starting point, but beyond that, everything is a matter of careful speculation, using known facts to form plausible scenarios. Ultimately, Lars Mittank's disappearance exemplifies the complex interplay of human psychology, environmental factors, and the limits of search and investigation. The confirmed evidence, the CCTV footage, hotel staff statements, medical records, and abandoned belongings, establishes a factual foundation. Beyond that, multiple theories remain possible, each compatible with certain aspects of the verified information but none able to provide definitive answers. Make sure to like and subscribe. Following Lars Mittank's disappearance, both official and independent investigations continued for years, focusing on piecing together the most complete timeline possible. Verified facts established that after leaving the medical office, he ran across the tarmac, jumped the airport fence, and vanished into a nearby field. Beyond that point, no physical evidence was recovered, and no verified sightings were confirmed, leaving authorities and the public to rely on contextual clues and informed interpretation. Investigators examined Lars's behavior in the days leading up to his disappearance. His friends, who were on vacation with him, reported that he had been involved in a bar fight several days earlier. While the altercation itself is documented and confirmed, there is no verified evidence connecting the incident to any later threat or pursuit. Lars expressed to both friends and his mother that he feared men from the fight were following him. These reports were taken seriously by police, but ultimately could not be substantiated, and the theory remains speculative. Medical assessments provide additional context. Lars had suffered a ruptured eardrum from the bar fight. The attending physician advised against air travel, citing potential complications. Lars was prescribed an antibiotic, cefprozil, which he did not take. While untreated ear injuries rarely result in extreme behavioral changes, it is reasonable to assume that the discomfort, combined with stress and exhaustion, may have heightened his anxiety. Several experts suggest that acute physical pain, especially when combined with a perceived threat, can trigger heightened panic responses, a plausible factor in his sudden sprint from the airport. At the airport, Lars exhibited erratic behavior captured on CCTV. He paced nervously in the medical office, glanced repeatedly toward the door, and seemed agitated even before the entrance of a construction worker. Verified witness statements indicate that after the worker arrived, Lars exclaimed, "I don't want to die here," and bolted from the room. The suddenness and intensity of this reaction are central to understanding his flight response. While the exact trigger cannot be confirmed, it can be reasonably inferred that his mental state was fragile and highly sensitive to unexpected stimuli. Once outside, Lars abandoned his personal belongings, including his wallet, phone, and passport, suggesting an urgent and unplanned departure. He ran across an open area, leaving behind items essential for travel or identification. The abandonment of these belongings reinforces interpretations that his flight was driven by immediate fear rather than premeditation. Verified footage shows him climbing over a fence, after which the trail ends. The abrupt cessation of his trace is confirmed by police reports and search records, highlighting the mysterious nature of his disappearance. Search efforts in the area were extensive and documented. Bulgarian authorities deployed multiple search teams, cadaver dogs, drones, and foot patrols to comb the fields and forest adjacent to the airport. Despite these efforts, no trace of Lars was found. This confirmed absence of evidence has fueled speculation, leading some to theorize that he may have encountered a vehicle, found temporary refuge, or suffered an accident shortly after leaving the airport. All of these possibilities are informed by the terrain, search limitations, and the absence of recovered evidence. Digital inactivity provides another layer of insight. Following his disappearance, Lars's phone and bank accounts were never used. This is a confirmed fact. Some interpret this to suggest he may have been unable to use technology due to injury, concealment, or capture, while others argue it supports the theory that he vanished unintentionally into the wilderness. What is clear is that there is no verified evidence of communication or activity after he abandoned his possessions, leaving investigators and theorists alike to consider scenarios based on indirect evidence. The family's involvement has been persistent and well documented. His mother coordinated with Bulgarian and German authorities, engaged private investigators, and distributed missing person flyers across Europe. Alleged sightings in countries like Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands were investigated, but none yielded verifiable results. This underscores the challenges faced by families of missing persons abroad, particularly in cases where confirmed evidence ends abruptly. Public attention has remained high, fueled by the airport footage, media coverage, and online discussions. Verified reports indicate that the video went viral soon after the disappearance, sparking widespread speculation and detailed analysis. The footage, showing Lars sprinting across the tarmac, abandoning his belongings, and climbing the fence, remains the most concrete visual record of his last movements. Its circulation has helped maintain awareness of the case and prompted both amateur and professional investigations worldwide. Medical and psychological professionals reviewing the case note that the combination of stress, physical injury, and isolation can trigger extreme fear responses. Lars's actions align with behaviors associated with acute panic, paranoia, and sudden flight. While no diagnosis can be confirmed, it is reasonable to infer that his mental and physical state contributed significantly to the events at the airport. One of the most puzzling aspects remains the total disappearance after the fence. Search dogs lost his scent within several hundred meters, and no eyewitnesses reported subsequent sightings. This absence of trace is confirmed by official search logs and police reports. It raises several possibilities. He may have encountered someone willing to help him, moved into an area beyond the search radius, or suffered an accident or medical emergency that left no recoverable evidence. Each of these possibilities is plausible based on known facts, though none can be definitively confirmed. The case continues to serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of solo travelers, especially when injured or under stress in an unfamiliar environment. It also highlights the challenges of international missing person investigations, where coordination across borders, language barriers, and procedural differences can complicate immediate responses. Verified records show that German authorities maintained oversight, working with Bulgarian police to ensure ongoing monitoring and documentation of any leads. Ultimately, the confirmed facts are limited but compelling. Lars Mittank ran from Varna Airport, abandoned his possessions, climbed a fence, and vanished into the nearby fields. Theories about what happened afterward range from accidental death to voluntary disappearance or foul play, but none are substantiated. Observed behavior, medical records, and eyewitness statements allow for informed speculation, but the outcome remains unknown. The case exemplifies how a combination of psychological, environmental, and situational factors can culminate in a disappearance that continues to baffle investigators and the public alike. In the days immediately following Lars Mittank's disappearance, investigators attempted to reconstruct the environment and conditions that may have influenced his actions. Security footage confirms that he ran barefoot across the airport parking lot, scaled a barbed wire fence, and disappeared into a field with patches of tall grass. The terrain beyond the airport, as documented in official reports, is uneven and partially forested, presenting a challenging environment for anyone unfamiliar with it. This geographic reality raises questions about how he could have traveled so far undetected, yet it is confirmed that no traces were found despite extensive searches. Witness testimonies provide further insight into Lars's mental and emotional state. Hotel staff recall that during the night before his disappearance, he was restless and visibly anxious, pacing hallways and repeatedly checking doors. He also expressed fear about potential pursuers, claiming that someone might be following him from the bar fight he had days earlier. While these fears could not be substantiated, they were consistently reported and aligned with his erratic behavior at the airport. Based on this, it is reasonable to interpret that his psychological state was highly agitated, contributing directly to the impulsive decision to flee. Medical factors also play a role in understanding the incident. Lars had a ruptured eardrum from the previous altercation, which caused him significant pain and discomfort. He was prescribed an antibiotic, cefprozil, but records confirm he did not take it. Untreated ear injuries can result in vertigo, dizziness, and disorientation. While these symptoms do not fully explain his sudden flight, they could have heightened his sense of vulnerability. Combined with exhaustion, travel stress, and isolation in a foreign country, these factors create a plausible context for his panicked behavior. The airport's CCTV footage remains central to any reconstruction of the events. Verified recordings show Lars leaving the medical office abruptly, muttering to himself, and running toward the main doors before vanishing across the tarmac. The presence of a construction worker in the room shortly before his flight has been cited as a possible trigger, though no evidence confirms that the worker posed any threat. It can be inferred that Lars's heightened paranoia made even ordinary events appear threatening, prompting an extreme flight response. Once outside, Lars abandoned key personal belongings, including his wallet, passport, and phone. This fact is documented and confirms that his departure was both sudden and unplanned. Leaving behind items essential for travel or communication is consistent with behavior associated with panic rather than a premeditated disappearance. His rapid movement through exposed terrain also indicates that fear, rather than strategic planning, guided his actions. Search efforts in the surrounding area were extensive. Bulgarian police, supported by German authorities, deployed cadaver dogs, foot patrols, and drones to examine fields and forested areas near the airport. Despite these verified efforts, no evidence of Lars was found. This absence of physical traces has been central to the enduring mystery, prompting continued public fascination and speculation. Some theorists suggest that he may have encountered a vehicle or temporary shelter, while others propose an accident or sudden medical crisis. But none of these scenarios are substantiated. The role of digital inactivity is another important factor. Lars did not use his phone or bank accounts after fleeing the airport. Verified records confirm this complete lack of activity. This could imply that he was incapacitated, isolated, or otherwise unable to communicate after leaving the airport. It also supports interpretations that his disappearance was involuntary, given the sudden abandonment of his essential belongings. Family involvement in the case was immediate and persistent. Lars's mother traveled to Bulgaria, liaised with authorities, and distributed missing person information across Europe. Alleged sightings in Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands were investigated but ultimately unverified. This thorough documentation highlights both the emotional and procedural complexities families face in cross-border missing person cases. It also demonstrates that every potential lead, however tenuous, was pursued in an effort to locate him. Several speculative explanations have emerged in response to the confirmed events. Psychological breakdown remains a primary hypothesis, based on eyewitness reports of his anxiety, fear, and pacing. Medical stress from the ear injury provides a complementary explanation, potentially contributing to disorientation or confusion. Environmental hazards, including uneven terrain, exposure to heat, and lack of water or shelter, may have compounded these factors. While none of these explanations can be confirmed definitively, each is informed by verified evidence and fits within the known circumstances of Lars's final movements. Public attention to Lars's disappearance has been magnified by the viral circulation of the CCTV footage. Verified sources indicate that the video is widely available online and has been analyzed extensively by both professional investigators and amateur theorists. This public scrutiny has maintained awareness of the case and fostered continuous discussion about the plausibility of various scenarios. Observers note the dramatic nature of the footage, particularly his sudden flight, the abandonment of possessions, and the scale of the disappearance in an otherwise monitored environment. Ultimately, the confirmed facts of Lars Mittank's disappearance are limited but crucial. He was last seen fleeing Varna Airport in 2014, abandoning essential items, and disappearing into nearby fields. Despite intensive search efforts and international cooperation, no trace has been recovered. Based on this, interpretations rely on documented behaviors, medical context, environmental conditions, and the psychological state inferred from eyewitness accounts. While multiple theories exist, ranging from accidental death to voluntary disappearance or foul play, none are verified beyond the initial moments captured on camera. The case continues to be studied for its complexity and enduring mystery. It highlights how quickly a combination of stress, injury, and perceived threat can escalate into a situation with irreversible consequences. Lars Mittank's story remains one of the most widely discussed disappearances in recent history, both for its confirmed evidence and the numerous plausible explanations that cannot be fully tested or verified. Make sure to like and subscribe. As the investigation into Lars Mittank's disappearance progressed, attention turned to the broader context of his actions and state of mind in Bulgaria. Verified accounts show that after the bar fight, Lars expressed growing fear to both friends and family. He claimed that he was being followed and that people intended to harm him. While authorities found no evidence of a credible threat, these repeated expressions of fear illustrate a consistent pattern of paranoia and anxiety. Based on these confirmed behaviors, it is reasonable to infer that he was experiencing intense psychological stress, which likely influenced his later actions at the airport. Medical reports also provide insight into potential contributing factors. Lars had a ruptured eardrum from the altercation days earlier, an injury confirmed by hospital records and doctor statements. The physician prescribed an antibiotic, cefprozil, which Lars did not take. While untreated ear injuries alone are unlikely to cause extreme panic, they can produce dizziness, disorientation, and heightened sensitivity to environmental stimuli. These effects, combined with fatigue, travel stress, and anxiety, could plausibly have amplified his fear and contributed to the sudden flight observed on CCTV. Airport footage is central to understanding the timeline. Lars is clearly seen leaving the medical office in a state of apparent panic, muttering statements about being in danger, and then sprinting toward the main doors. The presence of a construction worker in the office immediately preceding his flight is often cited as a potential trigger, though there is no evidence the worker posed any threat. It is plausible that Lars's fragile mental state caused him to perceive ordinary events as threatening, prompting an extreme and immediate flight response. Once outside, Lars abandoned his essential belongings, including his phone, wallet, and passport. This is a confirmed fact and indicates a departure driven by fear rather than strategic planning. He ran barefoot across the tarmac and climbed a barbed wire fence, disappearing into the surrounding fields. The abrupt nature of this flight, combined with the abandonment of personal items, supports interpretations of an involuntary disappearance caused by panic rather than premeditated action. Extensive search efforts were documented and confirmed by authorities. Bulgarian police, supported by German officials, deployed cadaver dogs, ground teams, and drones to examine the fields and forests beyond the airport. Despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Lars was recovered. This verified absence of evidence has been a central factor in the enduring mystery and has fueled public speculation regarding possible scenarios after he left the airport grounds. Digital records further reinforce the mystery. Lars did not use his phone or any bank accounts after fleeing. Verified records confirm the complete cessation of digital activity. This fact could imply that he was unable to continue communication due to injury, disorientation, or concealment, or that he was no longer alive. While it does not provide a definitive answer, it strongly supports interpretations that his disappearance was involuntary. Family involvement remained continuous and documented. His mother traveled to Bulgaria, worked with local authorities, and coordinated private investigations across Europe. Alleged sightings in countries including Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands were investigated but ultimately unverified. This sustained involvement underscores both the emotional toll on his family and the difficulties inherent in cross-border missing person cases. Several plausible theories have been proposed, each grounded in verified facts but requiring informed interpretation. One theory centers on psychological breakdown, supported by eyewitness reports of anxiety, fear, and erratic behavior. Another considers the influence of his physical injury, particularly the ruptured eardrum and lack of medication, which may have contributed to disorientation. Environmental hazards, including uneven terrain, exposure, and lack of shelter or water, present additional plausible factors. None of these theories can be confirmed as definitive, but they are consistent with the documented sequence of events. Public fascination has intensified due to the dramatic nature of the airport footage. Verified sources confirm that the video circulated widely online, prompting detailed analysis and discussion among both investigators and amateur theorists. The footage, showing Lars sprinting across the tarmac, leaving behind his possessions, and climbing the fence, remains the only visual record of his final movements. Its continued circulation has kept the case in the public eye and ensured ongoing attention to the mystery. In terms of procedural investigation, German and Bulgarian authorities coordinated closely, documenting each step and verifying every reported lead. Despite extensive collaboration, no additional evidence has emerged since the initial disappearance. Confirmed facts indicate that the last known location was the area just beyond the airport fence, and all subsequent theories rely on informed interpretation of environmental conditions, psychological state, and circumstantial factors. The enduring enigma of Lars Mittank's case highlights the unpredictable nature of human behavior under stress. Verified evidence establishes his panic, abrupt departure, and disappearance, but offers no concrete answers regarding his ultimate fate. Speculative scenarios remain informed by the facts: psychological breakdown, accidental injury, environmental hazards, or an unforeseen encounter after leaving the airport. Each is compatible with known evidence, but cannot be definitively proven. Lars Mittank's story continues to captivate investigators, media, and the public because it combines verifiable details with an unresolved outcome. The confirmed facts, his flight from the medical office, abandonment of belongings, and disappearance into the surrounding fields, provide a clear foundation, while the lack of trace beyond that point leaves ample room for interpretation. The case serves as both a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of travelers and a compelling study of how ordinary events can escalate into extraordinary mysteries. Make sure to like and subscribe. As the investigation into Lars Mittank's disappearance progressed, attention turned to the broader context of his actions and state of mind in Bulgaria. Verified accounts show that after the bar fight, Lars expressed growing fear to both friends and family. He claimed that he was being followed and that people intended to harm him. While authorities found no evidence of a credible threat, these repeated expressions of fear illustrate a consistent pattern of paranoia and anxiety. Based on these confirmed behaviors, it is reasonable to infer that he was experiencing intense psychological stress, which likely influenced his later actions at the airport. Medical reports also provide insight into potential contributing factors. Lars had a ruptured eardrum from the altercation days earlier, an injury confirmed by hospital records and doctor statements. The physician prescribed an antibiotic, cefprozil, which Lars did not take. While untreated ear injuries alone are unlikely to cause extreme panic, they can produce dizziness, disorientation, and heightened sensitivity to environmental stimuli. These effects, combined with fatigue, travel stress, and anxiety, could plausibly have amplified his fear and contributed to the sudden flight observed on CCTV. Airport footage is central to understanding the timeline. Lars is clearly seen leaving the medical office in a state of apparent panic, muttering statements about being in danger, and then sprinting toward the main doors. The presence of a construction worker in the office immediately preceding his flight is often cited as a potential trigger, though there is no evidence the worker posed any threat. It is plausible that Lars's fragile mental state caused him to perceive ordinary events as threatening, prompting an extreme and immediate flight response. Once outside, Lars abandoned his essential belongings, including his phone, wallet, and passport. This is a confirmed fact and indicates a departure driven by fear rather than strategic planning. He ran barefoot across the tarmac and climbed a barbed wire fence, disappearing into the surrounding fields. The abrupt nature of this flight, combined with the abandonment of personal items, supports interpretations of an involuntary disappearance caused by panic rather than premeditated action. Extensive search efforts were documented and confirmed by authorities. Bulgarian police, supported by German officials, deployed cadaver dogs, ground teams, and drones to examine the fields and forests beyond the airport. Despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Lars was recovered. This verified absence of evidence has been a central factor in the enduring mystery and has fueled public speculation regarding possible scenarios after he left the airport grounds. Digital records further reinforce the mystery. Lars did not use his phone or any bank accounts after fleeing. Verified records confirm the complete cessation of digital activity. This fact could imply that he was unable to continue communication due to injury, disorientation, or concealment, or that he was no longer alive. While it does not provide a definitive answer, it strongly supports interpretations that his disappearance was involuntary. Family involvement remained continuous and documented. His mother traveled to Bulgaria, worked with local authorities, and coordinated private investigations across Europe. Alleged sightings in countries including Poland, Denmark, and the Netherlands were investigated but ultimately unverified. This sustained involvement underscores both the emotional toll on his family and the difficulties inherent in cross-border missing person cases. Several plausible theories have been proposed, each grounded in verified facts but requiring informed interpretation. One theory centers on psychological breakdown, supported by eyewitness reports of anxiety, fear, and erratic behavior. Another considers the influence of his physical injury, particularly the ruptured eardrum and lack of medication, which may have contributed to disorientation. Environmental hazards, including uneven terrain, exposure, and lack of shelter or water, present additional plausible factors. None of these theories can be confirmed as definitive, but they are consistent with the documented sequence of events. Public fascination has intensified due to the dramatic nature of the airport footage. Verified sources confirm that the video circulated widely online, prompting detailed analysis and discussion among both investigators and amateur theorists. The footage, showing Lars sprinting across the tarmac, leaving behind his possessions, and climbing the fence, remains the only visual record of his final movements. Its continued circulation has kept the case in the public eye and ensured ongoing attention to the mystery. In terms of procedural investigation, German and Bulgarian authorities coordinated closely, documenting each step and verifying every reported lead. Despite extensive collaboration, no additional evidence has emerged since the initial disappearance. Confirmed facts indicate that the last known location was the area just beyond the airport fence, and all subsequent theories rely on informed interpretation of environmental conditions, psychological state, and circumstantial factors. The enduring enigma of Lars Mittank's case highlights the unpredictable nature of human behavior under stress. Verified evidence establishes his panic, abrupt departure, and disappearance, but offers no concrete answers regarding his ultimate fate. Speculative scenarios remain informed by the facts: psychological breakdown, accidental injury, environmental hazards, or an unforeseen encounter after leaving the airport. Each is compatible with known evidence, but cannot be definitively proven. Lars Mittank's story continues to captivate investigators, media, and the public because it combines verifiable details with an unresolved outcome. The confirmed facts, his flight from the medical office, abandonment of belongings, and disappearance into the surrounding fields, provide a clear foundation, while the lack of trace beyond that point leaves ample room for interpretation. The case serves as both a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of travelers and a compelling study of how ordinary events can escalate into extraordinary mysteries. Make sure to like and subscribe. Years after Lars Mittank vanished, his disappearance remains one of the most analyzed and debated cases of recent memory. Verified evidence provides a clear, though incomplete, picture. After sustaining an ear injury from a bar fight in Varna, Bulgaria, Lars exhibited escalating anxiety and paranoia. Eyewitness accounts confirm he expressed fears of being followed and harmed, and hotel staff documented his restless pacing, repeated checking of doors and windows, and erratic behavior. These observations form a factual basis for understanding the mental state that may have prompted his abrupt flight from the airport. Medical records confirm that Lars suffered a ruptured eardrum, causing significant discomfort and disorientation. He was prescribed an antibiotic, which he did not take. While this alone does not explain extreme behavior, medical experts note that untreated inner ear injuries can amplify stress responses, cause imbalance, and create sensations of vertigo. Combined with exhaustion, environmental stress, and perceived threats, it is reasonable to infer that these physical factors contributed to his sudden, panicked decision to flee the airport. CCTV footage provides the most concrete record of Lars's last known movements. Verified recordings show him leaving the medical office in distress, muttering statements such as, "I don't want to die here," and running across the tarmac, leaving behind his personal belongings. He climbed a barbed wire fence and disappeared into the surrounding fields. The abruptness of these actions, coupled with the abandonment of essential items like his phone and passport, supports interpretations that his disappearance was driven by acute panic rather than deliberate planning. Search efforts were extensive and well documented. Bulgarian authorities deployed cadaver dogs, foot teams, and drones to comb the fields and nearby forests, but no trace of Lars was recovered. German authorities coordinated with local police to follow up on any potential leads, including alleged sightings in other European countries, all of which were unverified. This confirmed absence of evidence beyond the airport contributes to the enduring mystery and reinforces the difficulty of locating someone who disappears under these circumstances. Digital inactivity provides another key data point. Lars did not use his phone or bank accounts after fleeing, a fact verified by telecommunications and financial records. This suggests that he was either unable to continue communication due to injury, isolation, or other factors, or that he did not survive long after leaving the airport. While this cannot be confirmed definitively, it strongly supports interpretations that his disappearance was involuntary. Theories about his fate remain numerous, with varying degrees of plausibility. Psychological breakdown, exacerbated by physical injury and environmental stress, is supported by confirmed behaviors and medical records. Accidental death from terrain hazards or wildlife is another possibility, considering the challenging conditions of the fields and forest beyond the airport. Some speculate foul play, but no evidence confirms any external interference. Voluntary disappearance remains unlikely, given the abandonment of essential items and repeated contact with family before his flight. Each scenario aligns with certain confirmed facts, but remains speculative beyond what is verified. Family involvement has been consistent and thorough. Lars's mother worked closely with authorities, engaged private investigators, and distributed missing person flyers across Europe. Alleged sightings were investigated but yielded no verifiable results. This highlights both the personal dedication involved in such cases and the limitations of international investigations when no confirmed trace exists. Public interest has remained intense, largely due to the airport footage and the mystery of his sudden disappearance. Verified reports indicate that the video went viral online, inspiring documentaries, podcasts, and numerous discussions about possible scenarios. The footage, capturing his last movements in real time, remains the only visual evidence and has contributed to Lars Mittank becoming one of the most widely discussed missing person cases of the 2010s. The confirmed facts create a timeline that ends abruptly at the airport fence. An anxious young man, injured and fearful, abandoning his belongings, running across exposed terrain, and vanishing into the landscape. Beyond this point, all interpretations must rely on informed speculation, grounded in environmental, psychological, and circumstantial factors. It is this combination of confirmed evidence and unresolved outcome that continues to captivate both investigators and the public. Ultimately, Lars Mittank's disappearance underscores how quickly a situation can escalate when physical injury, psychological stress, and environmental challenges converge. Verified records show his actions leading up to and during his flight, but the events following his crossing of the fence remain unknown. Whether he encountered help, suffered an accident, or succumbed to environmental conditions, the case continues to be studied as a complex intersection of human behavior, vulnerability, and mystery. The story of Lars Mittank is a haunting reminder of how ordinary events can spiral into inexplicable disappearance, leaving families, authorities, and the public searching for answers that may never be found. Confirmed evidence provides a foundation, but the unresolved outcome ensures that the fascination and analysis will continue for years to come. Make sure to like and subscribe.